Welcome, friends, back to another episode of Dominant Mets Nation. Today, we got a pretty interesting episode because we actually had some very important moves by the New York Mets. Today, unfortunately, a couple players on the New York Mets have been cut. 13 to be exact, and some of those names actually being pretty high profile. I'm already seeing the comments. Why? 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 Well, we're going to go over a couple big reasons why. All right. Then what we want to do is let's go over some very important and exciting things that have come out of spring training thus far. I'm not really sure if all of us are processing how many positives are coming out of spring training because of some of the injuries. I think that has clouded our perspective. But folks, there are a couple very amazing things from this spring training and things to be extremely excited about. Folks, if you didn't get a chance, I put out a video earlier today on Starling Marte and David Stearns. Go check it out. I'd really appreciate it. Also, let's do all the good stuff. Get this video started off right. Smash that like button. If you're brand new or you're a recurring member and just not subscribed, please do me a favor, subscribe. It really does help out the channel. And if you didn't hit that like button, even though I did ask 10 seconds ago, please consider liking because it really does tremendously help out the videos. Even if you think, oh, 40, 50 people liked, come on, be 51, be 52. It takes 2 seconds. No pressure, but I do appreciate it in advance. All right, folks. So let's get into that list today. And the list was put out by Mr. Anthony DiComo. And it includes, again, 13 players that were cut from camp today. And honestly, it was pretty interesting. All right, so let's see here. So let's start. So first off, you have a couple pitchers. One being Ty Adcock, Adbert Alzolay, Dom Hamill, Oliver Ortega, Brandon Sproat, Blade Tidwell, Ryan Clifford, Drew Gilbert, Rafael Ortega, Kevin Parada, Alex Ramirez, Luke Ritter, and the immortal Jet Williams, all being cut from camp today. No, and I gotta say, before we get into some of the reasoning, it does kind of stink because if you're going out to, if you're going out wherever you want to go see the Mets, whether you go to the home stadium or not, even watch it on TV, you want to see these guys. You want to see Ryan Clifford. You want to see Drew Gilbert. As you want to see Brandon Sproat. I remember I literally, the game I highlighted was Friday's game last week, watching Brandon Sproat, and I think he did phenomenal, filling up the strike zone, throwing strike after strike, inducing ground balls, hitting 99 on the gun. His sinking fastball was doing what it was supposed to do. Brandon Sproat really impressed. Blade Tidwell a day later with that immaculate inning. Oh boy, why are these guys being cut so early on? Well, folks, this is just how you put a roster together. And the fact of the matter is the Mets roster, $330 million payroll. A lot of this roster, I gotta say, was almost already set. The bullpen was already set. The rotation was literally set. You have Montas go down, and then obviously you have Minaya go down. So there's a little play at the end of the rotation. But a lot of this rotation roster, it was all set. Those injuries did create some daylight, but it really created daylight for some of the guys by the name of McGill, Griffin Canning, and Paul Blackburn. If one of those guys or multiple of those guys get injured, then you'll probably be seeing us dip down into our minor league. But right now, we'll go into some of the reasons. And the reason, number one, I'm going to say, actually, let me go with the most important reason because I want to lay the most important reason out first because I know some people have their hands in their head saying, why isn't Brandon Sproat on the opening day roster, or why not give him a chance to win the position? I think this is strategic, folks. Sorry, I got the dog in the room. Okay, folks. So I think it was strategic to cut some of the guys, Brandon Sproat, Blade Tidwell, this early on. The facts are the facts. Brandon Sproat can certainly win the number 5 spot in this Mets rotation. He can certainly go out and beat a Griffin Canning. He could certainly go out and beat a Blackburn. I mean, Blackburn, I saw him pitch the other day, and I'm like, you know what? This guy's talent is just not up to par, right? But what about if you do that? What if you do that? You go to my point. One of my points is value. You diminish the value of some of your potential assets, that being Griffin Canning and that being Blackburn. Blackburn and Griffin Canning are different than Tyler McGill. Tyler McGill, he has been in this system for a year right now. He has been in the pitching lab. You're going to see him having a leg up. I believe you're going to see him with that advantage. I think already you can pencil him in as the number 4 man. So right off the bat, okay, in terms of Blade Tidwell, Brandon Sproat, their value would be to be on in the rotation. You only have one spot left, but you have Griffin Canning and you have Blackburn. Those guys you're paying money to. You want to get something out of them. A couple $1 million to Canning. I believe it's over $4 million. So you want to get some value, right? So you don't want a Brandon Sproat to go out and take the position. And I know some of you are saying, yeah, but if he deserves it, my next point will kind of solve that thing. Okay, so you don't want to diminish the value. You want to give Griffin Canning, Paul Blackburn some time to get their footing under them, for the New York Mets to develop them, for them to maximize their repertoire, for them to get the most out of their investment, right? And they're going to need time. Griffin Canning is going to need time. It's not like they have a couple bullpen sessions. All right, now we've maximized the best, and he is the best he's going to be. No, he's going to need time, and probably he's going to get a couple starts. So at the very least, the Mets are looking ahead. McGill's probably going to be in that 4 spot. The 5 spot's probably going to be a mix of Griffin Canning and Paul Blackburn. You see if you can get anything out of them. And if you can, maybe you turn one of those into a trade chip. You turn one of those into a trade chip, and when Montez or Minaya come back, you can either turn those guys into a trade chip or they go to the bullpen if they're effective. If you give them a Sproat, or if you put up a Sproat or a Blade Tidwell in that 5th spot, then Canning, then Blackburn are useless. Okay, now for all of you who are screaming, saying, you want to put the most talented guys on the field. Okay, I would agree with that. But I think it's more important to have the most talented guys playing at the end of the season going into the playoffs than early in April. For pitchers, especially guys that you want to stretch out, guys like Brandon Sproat, you want to make sure you kind of monitor them, limit them. You'd rather have them pitching at a high level later in the season. If you can have Griffin Canning or a Blackburn eat up some innings early on when it really doesn't matter and you could still win games because you have a monster offense, I think it would be optimal in the long run. We have to remember, it's a damn long season. It's not like at the NFL where you have 17 games or the NBA when you have 82. This is a 162 game season. This is not a race. It is a marathon, folks, a marathon. And that is what David Stearns is looking with these cuts right now. It is about the long-term outlook right now. And these guys, if they perform, they're going to be up at some point. They're surely going to be up. If you have injuries, they could still be brought up. And also, too, at the end of the day, these guys have options. I didn't check Canning. I didn't check the other guys, but I know these guys obviously have options. All right. So that's that with those players. But at the end of the day, I think we have to be so happy because I looked at the article from John Heyman, and despite all of the Mets injuries, there is a real huge list of positives that we are all witnessing in spring training. And we're going to go over that right now. And if you haven't got a chance to like or subscribe, now's another great opportunity. And if you haven't got a chance, you can comment on, obviously, let me know your opinions on should a Sproat be cut? Should we, Sproat be cut or Tidwell be cut? Should these guys get a little more play? Should we be trying to get these guys to make the opening day roster? What's your take on that? Obviously, I'd like to hear your opinion. We don't always have to agree. I do like having that opposing opinion. Also, let me know, who is your favorite all-time Met? I'm going to let you know my all-time Met sometime later in this video. But still, let me know your favorite all-time Met. And I've always felt that everybody's all-time Met, it really tells me about the person. um that's what I've always tell, and I tell you what it kind of tells about me when I reveal my all-time favorite Met. All right, so let's go over some of the positives. You always want to look at positives, so let's start off with this. Kodai Senga, I think he's one of the most important things to watch this spring training. We know the starting rotation is one of the most important things. So you're going to see this is very starting rotation centric. Kodai Senga was really popping in his spring training debut, according to Heyman. Not according to Heyman, according to scouts. A scout basically used those words that his ball was really popping. While that isn't a technical term, that's maybe the best news of a lot of positive news down here. We truly missed the ghost fork in 2024, and he only threw it one time in this game, but he's back, and it's back, and we're going to see a lot more of that. And I gotta say, folks, it cannot be understated how important Kodai Senga is. I mean, in these 7-game series, if you have Kodai Senga back and healthy, you're going to have, an ace in 2 of those 7 games. It's not like 20 years ago where you can have your ace pitching 3 games, but most likely he's going to pitch in 2 very high leverage games. And then you're going to have a Sean Manaea, David Peterson, Clay Holmes, a great bullpen. So, if the Mets get this rotation up to par, maybe a Brandon Sproat breaks out, this rotation can look very dangerous. I'm not saying will, I'm not saying is. We need a lot of work. And it has to go. A lot of things have to fall into place. But I say this all really hinges on Kodai Senga. All right, so Kodai Senga looking good early on really is a good positive. And also, if you didn't catch my earlier video, Kodai Senga didn't throw his ghost fork, and he was working on a 2-seamer, and he was working on a sinker. So those are 2 pitches that he didn't really throw too much last year. And in the spring training, he's working on different pitches. I suspect these pitches they're more weapons, but I think they take more pressure off his arm. I think they are concerned about him. If you're not all aware about his contract situation, he's going to be with the Mets for the next 3 years, folks. 3 years. I mean, he had a contract where possibly this could have been his last year, but he's not going to be able to reach the minimum innings that would allow him to opt out. So that means we're going to have Kodai Senga for a very reasonable price for the next 3 years. You want to be able to take care of him. You want to be able to have him age gracefully. And that's why also another reason why his health is so important. Not just this year, folks, but for the future. So Kodai Senga looking good, great positive. All right, so the second one, David Peterson. Big performance yesterday or 2 days ago. Jeremy Hefner said of his Grapefruit League debut, 3 innings, 1 hit, and he appears ready to take a full rotation spot. This is a former number 1 pick who probably doesn't get the notice that he deserved. So that is another big thing. Excuse me. We saw Peterson finally last year kind of show the potential that we thought that he actually had when he was drafted number 1 overall. Not overall, but in the first round. So I think he can continue to develop. The Mets can continue to maximize his tools and really like work with him. David Peterson was one of the great bright spots. We had a lot of them: Sean Manaea, David Peterson. But these homegrown guys, they just mean that much more. So you have David Peterson looking good early on, and I'm not going to go crazy. It's just nice to see that these guys get off on the right foot. Now, the third positive is, again, starting pitching centric, and it's just so important, and that is Clay Holmes. Clay Holmes is making the transition from the bullpen to the rotation look easy. It's not, but he is. Holmes found the time while in the Yankees bullpen to learn a four-seamer, an excellent change of pace. The changeup is real. I'm sorry. So he had a fast. He learned the fastball, and he's working on a changeup. And the changeup that he has, I mean, the changeup is real. Hefner said it's really looking nasty in my opinion. It goes the way it's looking. The vaunted Mets pitching lab will become even more legendary if this Holmes experiment turns out into a major success. I already think the lab is already being legendary. What they did last year with Manaea, Peterson, McGill at the end, Quintana at the end, Maton, basically rebuilding the bullpen on the fly. With the Mets, it's more than just the talent. It's the culture. It's the philosophy, the coaching, the analytics. It's the whole system. The Mets are building a gauntlet. This is something special here, folks, and that is why I'm so excited. I mean, it's really just more than just that's why I think the Mets feel that these pitchers are so interchangeable. Like, when they set a value on a free agent, they're not going to blow past that value because they think that the difference between that pitcher and next said pitcher is not that much difference, because if you put the lesser pitcher in the lab, you can maximize his tools, and he could be just the same as that other pitcher that was worth double the price tag. So I think the Mets right now are so damn confident in themselves, and I like it. I like that they have confidence. I like that they're shrewd, and I like that so early on, all of the things that they were confident in, Sanger, Peterson, Clay Holmes, it's all coming to fruition, folks. Every single thing. Everybody who are like, oh, they should have gave up the farm for a top pitcher. It's right now. They're on track. They are on track. Even their young guns that they sent down, they were looking good. They were looking good. So I mean, I think the Mets right now really have to be confident in what they are doing, because it's been working, folks. It has been working. So Clay Holmes is another one. Another thing to be happy about: Max Kranick. Max Kranick reinvented himself last year. He's a bit of a late bloomer. He truly is. Mets people were blown away by his fast ball, breaking ball combination, and hitters are too. At age 27, his career is something of a late start due to untimely injuries, including a hamstring last year. But I mean, he's looking electric in the spring training, getting it up to 97 miles per hour. And that's a guy that, if he kind of is successful, and you saw flashes before he got hurt last year, that is a guy that like really nobody was really counting on. So that's another extra depth option. Okay. And you notice all these pitching positives. Another positive: Blade Tidwell created a stir, a rare immaculate inning, 9 strikes, 3 outs, drew attention. In fact, Blade Tidwell, obviously he's a prospect, and he's on the rise. He was unhittable that day, according to Hefner. And he truly was. And in fact, I believe I did the MOB I looked in the MOB record books since the 1880s. 1880s, folks, there have only been 115 immaculate innings. 1880s, folks, we are talking literally 100 and what, 40, 50 years? That is ridiculous. Ridiculous. Now, I didn't go through spring training, but still, it just shows you how rare and uncommon that is. So, props to Blade Tidwell, really. So he's another guy. And he's a guy that hasn't gotten as much attention as Brandon Sproat, but he was a guy, drafted, I believe, in 2023 in the second round. He's got a lot, 2022. He's got a lot of upside himself. He's been one of my personal favorites, and I just cannot wait to see him in the big leagues. I really can't. All right, so more positive. Brandon Sproat, number 6, lighted it up on the radar gun. Sproat's already hit 99. He's obviously the Mets' number one prospect, number one pitching prospect as well. He isn't viewed as part of the rotation discussion yet, but obviously he's not going to be far away. All right, number 7, and this is a very important one. McGill. And McGill against the Cardinals, he hit 98 on the gun. He looked pretty good. He should make the rotation, as I mentioned. Carlos Mendoza said, in his opinion, his stuff looked very good. All right, now let's go to a couple offensive guys. And this is what you really got to be excited about. So number 8, we'll go to Jesse Winker. Already right off the bat, you love the attitude, you love what he brings to the clubhouse, but he's already killing it. He seems to be in midseason form, and he always provides that extra entertainment value. He happily cops to weird. He's a fun player. I mean, he just, brings that extra energy that you need during the course of a grueling 162 game season. I mean, if you go back to my trade review video from last year, that was one of the things I liked. I love the fit. He might not be the best all-around player, the best hitter, the best defender, but he fits this New York Mets team. All right, number 9, Mr. Pete Alonso. Folks, this guy has his game face on. He is ready to rock this season. He really is, and he truly looks like it. I said the things he needs to do. He needs to be mentally prepared. He needs to be disciplined at the plate, no swinging at pitches outside the zone, and he needs to use the entire field. Those were his steps. All right. Sorry about that. Like, my dog's having a heart attack over here. All right, so back to Pete Alonso. So Pete's looking really sharp right off the bat. He's taken a lot of walks. He's taken his walks early on. He's taken a couple hits already to right field. The guy's obviously one of the strongest hitters in all of baseball. Doesn't have to worry about overswinging. Doesn't have to worry about generating a lot of power. It just happens naturally. His 226 home runs in his first 6 seasons are the most in the NL over that time. And obviously he's just, I believe, 27 home runs behind Darryl Strawberry for the franchise lead. So that is looking good. All right, so Pete Alonso, great sign early on. All right, so next positive, and this one, let's highlight, folks. Let's highlight, because I highlighted this when we acquired him, and that is Mr. Jose Siri. Patrolling center field was never going to be an issue for this guy. He was always going to be a defensive whiz, and I think it's even more important to see this guy's electricity just because you have another guy like Brandon Nimmo, very, very iffy right now. And folks, I'm concerned about that. I am ultra concerned. I see a lot of people downplaying it, but here's a guy who you have signed to another 6 years, 5 or 6 years, I think. So, you got him locked up for quite a while. He was center fielder when you signed him to this 8-year contract. And this is one of the other reasons why every time David Stearns turns around, another reason why you're probably never going to see him invest in anybody over 30, at least the long-term contract. But Jose Siri looks good. He's got that great power, always had that great power. And I said if he can find a way to shorten up his stroke and get a little more contact, I mean, this guy could be one of the biggest value plays. The guy that I wanted the Mets to look into before this season was Brenton Doyle of the Colorado Rockies, the 27-year-old Gold Glover. Decent bat, got a lot of potential. But Jose Siri, he could be that poor man's Brenton Doyle. He really can. And I gotta see this guy be patient at the plate. I gotta see his swing adjust. And I'm seeing little differences. I really am seeing differences in spring training from some of the highlights that I saw last year, but we have to see how it translates during the season. But so far, so good. So far, so good. And to have that type of bat at the end of the lineup, wow. Look who he replaced, folks. He replaced Harrison Bader. Harrison Bader. And now you have an explosive bat in Jose Siri. Like I said, we got to see how it translates in the regular season, but I'm liking what I'm seeing. That is a huge positive thus far in spring training. All right. Another very important positive is Mr. Brett Beatty. And Brett Beatty actually looks like he's ready for the big leagues. He's definitely had the talent and the attitude, and now he's gaining the versatility. So he's hitting he's 8 for 18, and he says that he feels good so far at second base as the Mets are putting him in different spots. He says he's willing to do whatever they want and is trying his hand at shortstop as well. Though we know that's not going to really happen. But, you just want to be able to be as versatile as possible. And I love it. I love the attitude. I love this kid. I really do. I love the fact that he got the car from Soto. I don't know. I think he's a guy that's had the talent. It's just that, it was between the ears. It was really between the ears. And the Mets, it looks like one of the biggest things that they are figuring out is that the mental part of the game is such a huge part. And I've said it in my prior videos, you know, all the greats know how important the mental part. Yogi Berra, 90% of the game. Greg Maddux, 60% of the game. In fact, Greg Maddux said that the mental aspect of the game is 60%. So he worked and he practiced 60% of his time on getting mentally stronger. I think the Mets are recognizing that as well. Everybody you hear from Pete Alonso to Francisco Alvarez, on down, everybody's talking about that mental aspect. So I think that's super, super important. So this is not on this list, but another positive that I'm seeing, and this is my personal observation, is the philosophy. I'm going to put that as one of the positives. You see the pitchers, they are attacking the zone. They are, doing anything but walking hitters. And juxtapose that, the hitters are being ultra patient. They are taking what's given to them. I mean, I'm looking mainly at our starters. Yes, some games we have a lot of guys who will never play, but when we have our starters in there, I just love the approach. I love the approach from the offensive end, and I love the approach from the pitchers. Okay. So the last positive that I have and John Heyman has is Juan Soto. Juan Soto is not only killing the ball, he's fitting in beautifully. I mean, he looks like he belongs here. He looks like the team has already embraced him. The thing with Brett Beatty gifting him a car, I mean, I think that is so important to the bond, to the relationships, to the clubhouse. It was just great. It was just great. You love to see that. You just love to see that. He's setting the tone. He's being a leader. He's not just taking a 765 million going in the corner. He's being a lot more than that. And I love it. I love it. So the injuries to Frankie Montas and Sean Manaea, obviously, it's bad news. But between McGill, Griffin Canning, and Blackburn, and the just signed, and I forgot to mention this in the beginning of the video when I was looking at the fourth or fifth spot, you have a Jose Urena as well. So they'll piece it together until mid to late April when Manaea can come back. So that's another point. I said Sproat and all those guys are being sent down. I forgot the newest addition. You got Urena there as well. So you have a bunch of guys, McGill, and then you got those three guys for the fifth spot. And if you want to employ a six-man rotation, then you have two guys for the six-man rotation. So the Mets have enough right now. And if it doesn't work out, then you go to your next option. And that's how you employ it, one after another. If one proves that he has no value, then you can kind of discard him. But discarding a Griffin Canning, discarding a Blackburn before the season even starts, you're just wasting your money. And you want to give Canning a little time in this system. You want to give Urena time in this system. You want to see if your investment, how much out of your investment you can get. So, folks, let me know what you think about the positives. Let me know what you think about the overall, attitude to, send these guys down, Sproat, Tidwell, and to give the rotational positions to the veterans. All right, folks. So I promise you, who is my personal all-time favorite Met? Obviously, from Seaver to the latest Juan Soto, Lindor, who is my all-time favorite Met. So what I see when people pick out their all-time favorite Met, I usually see they gravitate toward the person they loved when they were growing up, when they fell in love with the team, and that's who I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with, and it's a hard choice because it kind of intersected with two very big eras in my life. But I'm going to say that I started to fall in love with the 98 to 99 team. That's when the Mets made the huge trade. They acquired Mike Piazza. And, that's when I, really started to love the Mets. Probably I would say 1 to 2 years before that, maybe in 1996, I got into it, started going a couple games. But, obviously the Mets got better in the late 90s, 99, 2000. But, when Piazza came to the New York Mets, that made the New York Mets, it elevated them to another level. They were exciting. When Piazza was up, it just felt like, okay, you got to watch Piazza. And I was super excited. I just loved what, he did for this town, what he did for this team, and what he meant to me as a kid growing up. I remember doing book reports on the guy. I remember when I played ball, I wanted to be a catcher like Mike. He was the guy that I grew up kind of emulating, and that is why he is my all-time favorite Met. And I also like now how he is close to the Mets. I love that he loved being a Met. I love that. I love that. I was at his Hall of Fame induction in, I think it was 2016. My wife got me tickets, and that really meant a lot. But it means a lot because you could see how much it meant to him. So that's my all-time favorite Met. Let me know who's your all-time favorite Met, and if you want to let me know why, as well. And folks, don't forget, like the video, comment as much as possible. Tell your friends, share. We're trying to grow the channel. There's a lot of Mets YouTubers, so a lot of great Mets YouTubers to that. So there is competition. So I do appreciate you taking the time to be here and giving this channel a chance. We appreciate everyone. So let's go Mets. We got a couple more. What is it? 3-5. So we got 22 days left to opening day. I will see everybody soon. Have a great day, folks.